Growing your own lemon tree at home is one of the most satisfying experiences for any gardening lover. And today, in this complete guide, we are going to talk about one of the world's most famous and easiest lemon varieties, the Meyer lemon. This video will take you step by step from understanding what makes the Meyer lemon unique to the exact mistakes people make that stop their plant from growing, and all the way to the three main propagation methods: air layering, cuttings, and seeds, so you can choose the best way for your garden. And before we move forward, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I share powerful gardening guides that save you time, money, and effort. Now let's begin our journey into understanding the Meyer lemon and how you can grow it perfectly at home. The Meyer lemon is not an ordinary lemon. It's a hybrid between a true lemon and a sweet mandarin, which gives it a unique, fragrant, mildly sweet flavor that makes it extremely popular among home gardeners and chefs. Unlike the Lisbon or Eureka lemon, the Meyer lemon has thinner skin, more juice, and a deep yellow color with a slight orange tint when fully ripe. This makes the fruit not just delicious, but also visually beautiful. The plant itself is compact and well-suited for pots, terraces, balconies, and small gardens. People often prefer Meyer lemon because it produces fruit earlier than many other varieties and can yield multiple crops a year with the right care. It is also known for its fantastic fragrance. The flowers smell amazing, and even the leaves release a citrus aroma. For home gardeners, this variety is a top choice because it grows well in containers and adapts quickly to different conditions. However, despite all these advantages, many people fail to grow Meyer lemon successfully, and the reason is usually a few common mistakes that almost everyone makes. The first major mistake is overwatering. Citrus plants hate having wet feet. Constantly soggy soil suffocates the roots, leads to yellow leaves, and eventually causes root rot. When beginners see the leaves drooping, they think the plant needs more water, and they give even more, which makes the problem worse. The second big mistake is using heavy, clay soil in pots. Meyer lemon needs loose, fast-draining soil. If the soil becomes compact, the roots can't breathe, and the plant stops growing. The third mistake is lack of sunlight. This tree requires a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every single day. If it doesn't get enough light, it won't flower, and without flowers, there will be no fruit. The fourth mistake is never pruning. People allow the tree to grow in any direction without removing crossing branches, weak shoots, or inward growth. This creates a congested structure that blocks sunlight from reaching the inner parts of the plant. A properly shaped plant should have an open center that allows air and light to move through. Another common mistake is choosing the wrong pot, either too small, too deep, or without drainage holes. A pot that is too small suffocates the roots and slows growth, while a pot without drainage holds water at the bottom and damages the root system. And finally, many people do not fertilize their lemon tree, assuming that garden soil alone is enough. Meyer lemon is a heavy feeder and requires balanced nutrients regularly. Once you understand these mistakes, the next step is learning how to grow Meyer lemon through the major propagation methods. There are three reliable ways to propagate a Meyer lemon tree: air layering, cuttings, and seeds. The first method, air layering, is considered one of the most effective ways to clone a lemon tree. This technique involves wounding a branch while it is still attached to the mother plant, surrounding the wound with moist rooting medium, and sealing it until roots form. The advantage of air layering is that you get a young plant that is already a piece of the mature tree, making it capable of producing fruits much faster. Since the branch remains connected to the main plant during rooting, it continues to receive nutrients and water, which increases the success rate dramatically. Air layering also allows you to choose the exact branch you want, ensuring strong genetics and better fruiting potential. This method is particularly good for people who want a guaranteed clone of a high-quality, already fruiting Meyer lemon. The second method is growing Meyer lemon through cuttings. This involves taking a healthy branch tip, usually 6 to 8 inches long, removing the lower leaves, dipping the cut end into rooting hormone, and placing it into a well-draining medium like perlite, cocoa peat, or sand mix. Cuttings are inexpensive and allow you to produce many plants at once. However, the success rate of lemon cuttings is lower than air layering, and it requires a controlled environment with humidity, warmth, and indirect light to root successfully. Many beginners fail because they keep the cutting too wet or expose it to direct sunlight, causing it to dry out before rooting. Still, with proper care, cuttings can become a strong, healthy tree and produce good fruit. The third method is growing Meyer lemon from seeds. This method is simple, fun, and rewarding, especially for beginners who enjoy the process of watching a plant grow from the very beginning. However, seed-grown lemon trees often take many years, sometimes 5 to 7 years, before they produce fruit. And even when they finally do, the fruit might not be identical to the parent Meyer lemon because seeds do not always produce true-to-type plants. The tree might grow tall, wild, and vigorous, and may require more pruning to train it. But if you are patient and enjoy long-term projects, growing from seed can be a beautiful experience. Now, among these three methods, which one is the best for growing Meyer lemon? The clear winner is air layering. This method gives you a clone of the main tree, ensuring predictable fruit quality, faster growth, and earlier fruiting. While cuttings are good and seeds offer a fun experience, air layering produces a strong, mature plant with established roots that transitions into a pot easily and starts producing much sooner. So, if your main goal is to grow a productive Meyer lemon tree as quickly as possible, air layering is the best choice. Once you have your plant, whether through layering, cutting, or seed, the next step is to plant it properly in a pot. Growing Meyer lemon in a pot gives you great control over soil, fertilizing, watering, and sunlight exposure. Start with the right pot. Choose one that is 14 to 16 inches wide for young plants. Make sure it has multiple drainage holes at the bottom. Plastic pots retain moisture longer, while clay pots breathe better but may dry faster. Either one works as long as you understand watering balance. When you transplant the young plant, gently loosen the roots without damaging them. Place a layer of coarse material at the bottom, such as small stones or broken pieces of clay pot, to improve drainage. Then, fill the pot halfway with your prepared soil mix and position the plant in the middle. Make sure the plant sits at the same depth it was growing before. You should never bury the stem deeper than its original level. After positioning, fill the pot around the roots with more soil and gently press to remove air pockets. Do not compact the soil too tightly. Citrus roots need space. Now let's talk about the most important part, the soil mix. Meyer lemon loves light, airy, well-draining soil. The ideal mix is 40% quality garden soil or compost, 30% cocoa peat, 20% perlite or coarse sand, and 10% organic manure or well-rotted compost. This mix ensures that the soil holds enough moisture for the roots, but drains quickly so that the roots never remain soggy. You can also add a handful of neem cake or biofertilizer to prevent fungus and pests. Meyer lemon roots spread horizontally, not deeply, so giving them a loose medium helps them expand naturally. Next comes fertilizing. Meyer lemon is a nutrient-hungry plant. It requires nitrogen for leaf growth, phosphorus for root and flower development, and potassium for strong fruit production. The best fertilizer routine is to feed your plant once every 30 days during the growing season. Citrus fertilizer, or NPK 555 or 19-19-19, works well, but always at half strength for potted plants. Organic options such as fish emulsion, seaweed extract, vermicompost, banana peel fertilizer, and cow manure can also be used. During flowering, adding a small amount of potassium-rich fertilizer helps increase fruit set. Avoid giving too much nitrogen during fruiting because it will cause more leaves and fewer fruits. Another important element is magnesium, which prevents yellowing between leaf veins. A small spoon of Epsom salt dissolved in water every 45 days works perfectly.
Always remember, citrus plants prefer small, frequent feedings rather than one heavy dose. Now let's move to watering. Meyer lemon hates overwatering, but it also dislikes being completely dry for long periods. The correct method is to water deeply but less frequently. Wait until the top 2 to 3 inches of soil become dry before watering again. When you water, make sure the entire root zone becomes moist. Never water lightly every day. This encourages shallow roots. Instead, water thoroughly so the roots go deeper. In summer, watering may be required more often. In winter, much less. Always check the soil before watering. Using a moisture meter helps beginners avoid mistakes. If you notice leaves curling inward, it may be underwatered. If the leaves turn yellow and start falling, it may be overwatered. Finally, sunlight. For strong growth and fruiting, Meyer lemon needs at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. This is one of the most important factors. Without proper sunlight, the plant becomes weak, stretches its stems, produces fewer flowers, and gives very little fruit. If you're growing indoors, place the plant near a south-facing window or use a grow light for 12 to 14 hours daily. But natural sunlight always gives the best results. In extremely hot climates, afternoon shade can help prevent leaf burn, but morning sunlight is essential. When your Meyer lemon finally settles in its pot and starts growing steadily, the next phase is understanding how to guide its growth for maximum fruiting. Many gardeners think that once the plant is in the pot, their job is finished, but in reality, this is the stage where proper care makes the difference between a weak plant and a highly productive lemon tree.
Growth management includes training, pruning, seasonal adjustments, and pest care. A Meyer lemon grows naturally in a bushy, rounded shape, and without proper pruning, it can become dense and tangled, limiting airflow to the inner branches. This lack of circulation creates an environment where fungus thrives. Powdery mildew, sooty mold, and leaf spot are some common problems caused by poor air movement. By pruning lightly and consistently, you open the structure of the plant and allow sunlight to reach deeper inside, which boosts photosynthesis and strengthens the overall health of the tree. Another key tip is removing suckers. These are shoots that grow from the base or below the graft union. They appear fast, grow aggressively, and steal nutrients from the main plant. If not removed, they take over and reduce fruiting drastically. Suckers should be cut off as soon as you see them, ideally when they are still soft and green. It's also important to understand that citrus plants, including Meyer lemon, require a balance between vegetative growth, leaves and branches, and reproductive growth, flowers and fruits. If the tree forms too many branches, it may delay flowering. Therefore, shaping the tree early helps direct its energy toward fruiting rather than unnecessary leaf growth. Seasonal care is another crucial aspect. In most climates, Meyer lemon grows actively from early spring to late summer. This is the time to feed, water regularly, prune lightly, and expose the plant to maximum sunlight. During winter, the plant becomes semi-dormant. Growth slows, watering decreases, and fertilizing should be paused. Overfeeding in winter can shock the plant and damage the roots. If you live in a cold region where temperatures drop below 4 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, bringing the pot indoors or covering the plant with a frost cloth is necessary. Meyer lemon is more cold tolerant than many other citrus varieties, but frost can still damage young branches and new buds. If you notice frost damage, wait until spring before pruning the dead sections. Pest management is equally important because citrus plants attract certain pests like aphids, spider mites, mealybugs, and whiteflies. These pests feed on sap and weaken the plant significantly. They also excrete sticky honeydew, which encourages the growth of black sooty mold. To prevent pest infestations, regularly inspect the underside of leaves and new shoot tips. If you notice early signs of pests, spray the plant with neem oil solution or soap water. For heavy infestations, use a horticultural oil spray. Keeping your plant clean, healthy, and stress-free reduces the chances of pest attack. Now, let's discuss flowering and fruit setting, which is often the part where beginners struggle the most. A Meyer lemon will flower multiple times a year if given proper sunlight and nutrients. The tiny, white flowers with intense fragrance are one of the most beautiful stages of the plant.
However, many beginners get excited when they see flowers, but later become disappointed when the flowers fall without turning into fruit. This phenomenon is called flower drop, and it can happen for several reasons: insufficient sunlight, sudden temperature change, overwatering, or lack of nutrients. To improve fruit set, apply a potassium-rich fertilizer during flowering. Avoid nitrogen-heavy feeds at this stage because nitrogen pushes leaf growth instead of fruiting. Proper sunlight, stable temperature, and consistent watering also help the plant hold on to the tiny fruit.
When the fruit appears, it starts small and green. Over the next few months, it grows in size and begins to turn yellow. Meyer lemons do not always become fully bright yellow like store lemons. They often have a deeper, slightly orangish tone because of their hybrid nature. Do not pick the lemons too early. Wait until they feel slightly soft when gently squeezed and have a rich yellow color. Meyer lemons become sweeter the longer they stay on the tree. As your tree matures, repotting becomes essential. A young Meyer lemon stays comfortable in a 14 to 16-inch pot for 1 to 2 years. After that, you should move it to a larger pot, ideally 18 to 20 inches wide. Always repot in early spring, right before the active growth season. When repotting, do not disturb the roots too much. Simply shift the root ball into a bigger pot with fresh soil around it. Repotting refreshes nutrients, encourages new roots, and improves growth. One more important tip is mulching. Adding a layer of organic mulch, such as dry leaves, wood chips, or straw on top of the soil helps retain moisture, regulate temperature, and suppress weeds. However, keep the mulch away from touching the trunk because citrus stems can rot if kept moist. Another great practice is foliar feeding. Meyer lemon leaves can absorb nutrients quickly when sprayed lightly with diluted seaweed extract or micronutrient solution. Foliar feeding once a month helps boost overall health, greener leaves, and stronger flowering. A major concern many gardeners face is yellowing leaves. Yellow leaves can be caused by overwatering, poor drainage, lack of magnesium, or nitrogen deficiency. Always diagnose correctly before treating. If only the older leaves are yellowing, it may be a nitrogen issue. If green veins remain but the area between veins turns yellow, this is magnesium deficiency. Epsom salt solves this easily. If the yellow leaves are mushy or falling off, it's likely root rot from overwatering. The final important aspect is patience and observation. Meyer lemon is a forgiving plant, but like all living things, it responds to care, attention, and consistency. If you give it proper sunlight, balanced watering, good soil, and regular feeding, it will reward you with fragrant flowers and delicious lemons year after year. And that brings us to the end of this complete guide on growing the Meyer lemon successfully at home. If you follow the steps I've shared, avoiding common mistakes, choosing the best propagation method, using the right soil mix, giving proper sunlight, watering correctly, and maintaining your plant season by season, your Meyer lemon tree will thrive, grow beautifully, and produce delicious fruit for years to come. If you found this guide helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and share it with your gardening friends. Your support helps me create more detailed and helpful content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.